I'd like to move now into the PowerPoint presentation that I have prepared for today. Printout is in your packet, so if you don't want to crane your neck and look behind you, you can just follow along in your packet. The room isn't quite set up well as I'd like it to be for this, but so welcome. The official name of our group is the Mendocino County Homeless Services Continuum of Care. We call it the CoC. You'll see the acronym MCHSCOC. We're also HUD numbers, all of the CoCs. So per HUD, we're labeled CoC CA 509. Yeah. So the purpose of our group here is to coordinate a system of services to assist people who are experiencing homelessness, whether there's families, individuals, there's a whole spectrum of homelessness, and it affects everyone. It affects every spectrum, every field of work, and our CoC is specifically looking at the system of services within the jurisdiction of Mendocino County. Lake County recently formed its own continuum of care. Humboldt County has had one for a long time, as has Sonoma County. So there's individual local groups of persons like yourselves in those other communities as well. So, and this is a nationwide model. There's federal regulation that authorizes this program. And I've got the Code of Federal Regulation in your packet and up on the screen. When you look at this electronically or digitally, you can click that and it'll take you directly to the legislation. And so I took language out of the most recent notice of funding availability and broke down what it's really designed to do. So it's a community-wide commitment to the goal of ending homelessness. It's to provide funding to achieve that goal in a lot of different areas, in a lot of different fields, local governments, and nonprofits to quickly rehouse individuals and families experiencing homelessness or fleeing domestic violence or other traumas, and to promote access to an effective utilization of all of our services, not just the services that we provide here, the folks represented here, but also the mainstream resources in our community. So like SSI or Medi-Cal or food stamps, those kind of things. So it's not just done in a silo. It's not just, oh, we need to deal with homelessness. No, people who are experiencing homelessness are eligible for a spectrum of services in our community. And so it's not just what can we build, it's also what can we leverage. Any questions or comments so far? Right. So a little bit on how it works locally here in Mendocino County. We were established in 1995, early on when the program was first formed. The Continuum of Care program evolved in 2012 under updated federal regulation. It defined homelessness very clearly and in different categories. And it also required that local groups formed an official body, a board, a governing board. And so this group here, you are all members of the Continuum of Care. And that membership then appoints a board to carry out that's responsible for carrying out the tasks of the Continuum of Care. And so y'all are at least general members. Some of you may also be board members. And then Mendocino County Social Services, Department of Social Services, has been identified by this continuum of care to be the lead applicant and to be like the administrative entity. So because the continuum of care isn't a nonprofit, because it isn't a legal entity, it has to have some representative who can carry out that work on its behalf. And that's what the county does. And that's what my job is to do. I put in some links here to some of the current funding sources that we have, that the continuum of care has some form of involvement in. We have 2 contracts or grants that are projects that are funded locally through the Continuum of Care program. And we're actually going to be approving their applications for funding later on today. It's the last item on our, that's the last attachment in your packet. And so both are received by the Community Development Commission of Mendocino County, or local housing authority. The largest of the 2 grants funds the Permanent Supportive Housing Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program, and it provides permanent rental assistance for people who are experiencing chronic homelessness, which is they have a disability and they've been homeless a year or longer, either consecutively or in episodes. There's also the Emergency Solutions Grant, which provides funding primarily for emergency shelters and some rapid rehousing. There's also other additional activities under it, but that's primarily how we use it locally. And then we also have some state funding, and it's called the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, or HAC, which is another acronym used by housing authorities and other people. So it gets a little confusing, but so those are the primary funding sources that this board is overseeing at this time. Any questions on those? How can you help? Place membership. A lot of people, everyone here today has place membership, but I'm really hoping that this presentation will reach a lot of new folks who've had questions about, well, what do you guys do? And so I'm preaching to the choir here, but for those of you who are joining us in the future, there's a lot of different things that you can do to be part of this. So you can join the team. Applications are available on our website, mendocinococ.org. If you want to know more about what we do in our strategic plan, there are some specific goals and strategies on how to achieve those, and that is linked in this presentation. And so a lot of people ask, what does it mean to be a CoC member? And so I came up with some bullet points. This is a new addition to the presentation I haven't done before. And so sometimes your agency may represent a subpopulation of folks. You may provide substance use services, or maybe your behavioral health agency, or you work specifically with veterans. Well, your voice brings representation to that subpopulation that your agency is interacting with on a regular basis. We don't work with veterans on a regular basis, but you guys do. So that expertise is imperative to have, not just on our board, but in our general membership as well. Attend these meetings quarterly, 4 meetings a year, bare minimum. If you just want to come, find out what's going on, that's the minimum attendance is 4 meetings a year. And then we also ask that you participate in at least one committee or work group. We have a bunch of different committees ranging from, our data systems to how our coordinated entry system is connecting people to specific housing, to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's a whole variety, and there's something for everybody. Participate some way in our annual point. So, or PIT, as you may hear it. It's interchangeable. It means the same thing. And that is the HUD mandated annual count of people experiencing homelessness in our jurisdiction. So we ask that our members support those efforts in some way. It's going to look different. What Hospitality Center is able to do is going to be very different compared to what the Veterans Administration can do versus what, a city can do. I mean, it's just, everybody's different and everybody has something to contribute. The general members approve changes to our governance charter. That's why I'm today, later on in our agenda, we're approving expanded language for our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. And so the general members really set what those expectations of the CoC are. And finally, they appoint the board of the governing board that oversees policy and deals with the ins and outs and is ultimately responsible for the operation of the CoC. So we've talked a lot about this board. How does it work? Sometimes we'll have more. So we meet once a month, except for on the membership meetings. So they attend monthly. Sometimes we'll have special board meetings. I may have to call one later this month for our NOFO, but we'll get there here in a little bit. Our full membership meetings, the ones that we're having today. So they attend all of them. There are policy and procedural changes that occur across the board to lots of different policies, and the board is ultimately the one that approves those changes. And ensure that the CoC board responsibilities are filled. And just for time's sake, I'm not going to go through every single one of those, but it's in your packet and you can see it here. And so there's some specific things, but like establishing performance measures and, setting the bar for what the expectations in our community. How do our meetings work? So like I said earlier, there's quarterly full membership meetings. We ask that you serve on a committee of some form to work on an actual, real project that we're doing. And these meetings are governed by the California State Ralph M. Brown Act. We call it the Brown Act. And it requires it establishes expectations of legislative bodies that are accountable to members of the public. And so we have to post our agendas, we have to allow for public comment on agenda items, and really encourage that public participation. I've linked here where you can pick up membership applications. This is my contact information, wilsonv@mendocinocounty.gov. Our telephone number is 707-468-7071. And you're welcome to call or email me anytime if you have questions. Does anybody have any questions?
No comment. I like putting an exclamation point on the committees. That if you're a member, the committees is where the work is really happening. So it's where proposals get drafted and reviewed and talked about at length and then brought to the board or to the full membership for review and approval. So the committee's work is really where the meat of this is at. And sometimes it's kind of hard for us to get good variety of people coming to those committee meetings to help do the work. And so we just plug that.
Can you give a sample of the committees that you have? So some of us who don't know all the.
There is a list in your packet. I don't know this yet.
I don't.
Yes, you don't have a packet. Page 39. So our standing are diversity, equity, and inclusion, a membership committee, shelter and solutions committee, which
We're on that, Karen.
Yeah.
the SAG is a member of, HMIS committee, and then the coordinated entry.
And time to time throughout the year, there's different ad hoc committees. There's a committee especially for pit count. There will be review committees when we need to review funding proposals, we'll have a short-term committee that will review those proposals. So there's both standing committees and then time-limited ones as well.
Okay.
And then do all the committees meet once a month, or when? I can't remember when the Shelter and Solutions Committee meets. I know.
It varies by committee.
Okay.
They're not all the same.
Okay.
The shelter and solutions committee meets every other month.
Every other month. Okay.
The HMIS committee meets monthly. The coordinated entry committee meets quarterly with work group meetings on the off months. So they're all different.
With the strategic planning, it dawned on me that I haven't been to one in forever. And am I missing?
We haven't had one in forever.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You're not missing anything.
Okay, good. We just have.
Okay,
I'm good.
thank you all.
Thank you. Well done. Thanks.
Veronica, can I make a comment too?
Yeah.
I feel like once you join, no matter in what role, you're the person that needs to speak up or answer questions about this policy, or people will ask you as if because you've joined now you know all the stuff that we've just gone through, and you've heard how layered and kind of complicated it is. So that's why you really need to write Veronica's phone number on your hand, because there are people, often city council members or a business owner, they literally have a very legitimate question or concern, but we can't. It's real hard to represent all of that information, and so again, I think we're kind of the front line to beat down some of the misinformation that can, get legs and grow. So that's the hidden responsibility you've just signed up for that you didn't know you're going to have to help with.